Okay, they enjoy. Hello, my Crystal Loves Texas Facebook and YouTube family. Do these faces look familiar? Now, one of them you see every week. You see my trusty co-host Rebecca Williams here every week. And one of them you have seen around town recently a whole lot because we are in election season.
Yes, we are.
And we are bringing on some of the candidates, guys, that you need to get to know. You're going to be going to runoffs on the 26th.
26th of May.
May 26th. And we want to make sure that you have got your information in hand so that when you go to the poll, you'll be able to make a sound decision. And with that in mind, we used to be on opposite ends of campaigning. But I would put it like this, Rebecca, and you know, Rebecca says, Crystal, you always see everything as half full. That's right. I feel like everything is a God thing.
Yes, ma'am.
I do. And I feel like everything happens in the order that it should happen. And with that in mind, this gentleman is Dr. Lawrence Allen.
Lawrence Allen.
Is Lawrence Allen. And Lawrence was one of my opponents in the primary race for state representative, Texas House District 131. Now, Lawrence is now in a runoff.
Yes, correct.
And that's coming up in May. And Lawrence is a legacy. And the thing about that is, if you're not careful, and you hear this all the time, I'm sure, people can really form their own opinion about legacy.
That's correct.
So what we're going to do tonight is give Lawrence a chance to peel back the layers. And that's got that light has got my forehead shining, doesn't it, y'all? Look at
No,
it.
Maybe it's supposed to be that way, like you
No.
said.
Woo! And then that little gray streak doesn't help. But don't look at me, look at Lawrence. But Lawrence is going to peel back the layers, because in this particular race, there are so many people who may have preconceived notions. And he's going to explain to you why he feels not only is he a qualified candidate, but why he feels that he's the best option at this point in time.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, before he does, let me say this about Lawrence.
Yeah.
He actually made the campaign fun. Every time we would come together or see each other, we'd be cracking jokes and laughing. So I think a lot of people think when you're going up against each other in politics, it's mean, it's messy, it's nasty.
And a lot of times it can be. It depends on whether or not that's your spirit.
Right.
That's never been my spirit. And
or his.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was fun. It was exciting. It was funny. He is a jokester. So I really wasn't expecting that, because every time you see Lawrence, he's so dressed up and serious. And it's like, okay.
With a tie.
Right. But so humorous.
Yes.
He always is giving words of wisdom. Just really a nice. What you do?
I didn't do anything that the internet is doing something crazy. Hang on. If we have to start over, you always got to start over. That is part of. Did you see that happen?
I wasn't even paying attention.
Okay. Yeah. That was crazy. Let me go back out. And we were doing so good. We were doing good. But you know what? That's the thing. Sometimes on these live things, that is okay. We lost our connection. Let me reconnect it. And if we got to go back in, we'll go back in. Add myself to the stage. Hey, y'all still there? I see you still there. We didn't go anywhere, I promise. See, people are still looking. Thank you. You know what podcasts are like, right? Okay. Well, what we're going to do is go ahead and use this native camera. We're going to use this native camera, get us in there. Lawrence, come in a little bit. Rebecca, come in a little bit.
All
I
right.
had my 4K on. I was trying to be fancy. But anyway, Rebecca, what you were saying is that Lawrence surprised you out on the
Yeah,
campaign
he
trail.
did. He was, because every time I used to see him, he used to be so, suited and booted. So I just thought, I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna bother him ever. So
Well, he has that,
But
he has that
he-
poker face.
right,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
He
But
has a stern
once you
face.
get to know him, he is so energetic. He's humorous. He's always giving words of wisdom and kindness. So it was just fun being on the campaign trail with him.
So, Lawrence, with that in mind,
Yes, ma'am.
let's go ahead and kind of get to know you a little bit. Tell me, born and raised,
Born and raised in Houston.
Sunnyside, Southport, what part?
Born and raised in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
Came to birth in Herman Hospital, if you
Okay.
know, like I do, and was brought home to a little community called Blue Ridge in the Sunnyside area.
It's a church I go to.
Ah, Blue Ridge Baptist.
She's still in the Blue Ridge.
Baptist,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah.
right there on Cathedral. Stayed there until about the age of 8. And I think we did like the Clampetts, got a few more dollars, and we moved over into Hillwood. And that's why I was attending James H. Law Elementary School.
Okay.
And so I attended school there, and get to imagine, it was that time and period where M&M transfers, minority to
gosh,
majority
yes,
transfers at that
transfers.
time.
Yes.
And so that was just pretty common that you would transfer to a school where you were in the minority.
Right.
And so I made the decision to attend Dick Dowling, which is now Lawson.
I taught it
Okay,
down.
Which is at Dowling, and
Yeah.
which is Lawson now.
Mhm.
So I did my 7th, 8th, and 9th grade at Dowling, and then I said I want to get closer to home, and I wanted to go to Worthing High School because it was in the community. All my friends were going there,
Okay.
preparing to play football and other sports.
Mhm.
And my mother said, "Not so fast, young man." And I think there's a place that I think will do you more justice, and it was Jesse H. Jones High School.
Okay.
And so we went over there and registered for school, and I had 3 wonderful years at Jesse H. Jones High School. That's why I graduated from before matriculating on to Prairie View.
Woo!
And so,
So basically, like Rebecca is motioning, every school that you name, we have some kind of connection to.
Yeah.
And the reason that I kind of have, I'm going to say I've known Lawrence, but it's 6 degrees of separation because my sister went to Jesse H. Jones. She was a classmate of Lawrence's at Jesse H. Jones. And when she heard that Lawrence, I'm going to tell a story.
go ahead.
When she heard Lawrence was running, she said, "Oh my goodness, is he still the best dressed?" Because Lawrence he won best dressed over at Jesse H. Jones High School, and you can still see he is really a person who is aware of his appearance. But Lawrence, let me ask you this, and I'm gonna hit you with the tough question
Okay.
first,
Good.
and it's because it's what everybody is asking.
Okay.
Okay, Lawrence, tell me a little bit about what it is like having to run a campaign. I'm not going to say in the shadow because it's not in the shadow, but behind someone who's already created a lane. What is that like, having to create your own lane?
I'm not going to say it's difficult, but
Yeah.
it is certainly an advantage, if
Yeah.
you would. There are a lot of obstacles that you might run into in terms of individuals who are asking you to allow them to work in your campaign
Okay.
for contributions. And so you have a tendency to say, well, how much is it? 5,000? And then you come
Right.
to realize with somebody with that level of experience,
Yeah.
they say, we don't need that.
Yeah.
Or they truly know how to negotiate
Okay.
that price. The day-to-day runs and operations of a campaign, you need somebody that can advise you.
Right.
So my mother actually served as my chief advisor in the campaign, letting me own the campaign.
Right.
I've got what you call veto power if it's
Right.
something I really want to do.
Yeah.
But as a person who realizes that it's invaluable, because this was not our first campaign.
Right.
I've been in 10 campaigns.
Yes.
And so it was nothing new for me to be in a space where she is advising me on the day-to-day operations of a campaign. And so you well know, you get 45, 50 questionnaires. You need to be organized, to
Yes,
get those things
yes,
out in a timely
yes.
fashion. And sometimes you need somebody with some experience to say, hey, how would you respond to this?
Right.
You know?
And for the people who just may be looking in for the first time, tell us who your mom is.
My mom is Dr. Alma A. Allen, the current state representative for House District 131,
Correct.
tenured and longtime educator in the city. 22 years on the in the legislature and 12 years in the State Board of Education.
Right.
I think she is an icon in the city. I think
Mhm.
eventually you're going to see a
Oh,
building or somewhere
icon
named
yeah.
after her.
is
Yeah.
underestimated. But and
She's
the
still
reason
mama.
was yeah, and the reason I say that because one of the campaign events we were at, she was just inundated with people walking up to her. I think people forgot you was even
Well, let me
there.
listen, that didn't occur. That didn't occur when she became an
Rebecca is
elected official.
unbridled.
Just watching my mom all of my life.
Right.
Yeah,
It's her personality,
Right.
and it's how she helps people.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the lesson that she taught me. It's about helping, not just helping, but how you treat people.
Right.
Right.
And so when people come to her, they are remembering something she may have done for their child, something she
Exactly.
may have done for their mother,
yeah,
how she treated them. I still want to say thank you. This
Yeah.
how,
Yeah.
let me say thank you.
Yeah.
You're both educators by trade. You understand those children that you touched, when you see them in front of the store with their 40 ounce in their hand, they still want to say to you, thank you, Rebecca, for what you did for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They
Crystal.
do. They
I
do.
wish I
Thank
had
you.
listened when you told me.
Oh,
right?
I get a
They
lot of
do,
those
they do.
too.
So imagine she spent nearly 40 years in the school district
Yeah.
and another 30 years of external service in the community. So
Right.
people are simply saying,
Thank
I want to give you flowers while I can still see you.
Right.
Well, you know what you just described, Lawrence, is definitely a perk, and that will definitely help you be able to maneuver in a space where if you didn't have that, it would have been much more difficult.
That's correct.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your background in leadership. Now we know where you went to school. We know where you went to college. Tell us about your background in leadership, because in this capacity,
Okay.
that is going to be a place of leadership, of knowing when to step up and lead and knowing when to step back and listen and be, observant. So
Okay.
tell us a little bit about that.
Well, let me go back to Jones High School,
Okay.
because as the principal of a school,
Hmm.
that's what you do on a daily basis.
Okay.
And it's magnified when you have 1,000 children in the building,
Yes.
100 employees in the building,
Right.
an external administration that you have to respond to.
Yes.
You are conditioned to deal with difficult issues on a daily basis.
Right.
In fact, you don't even realize the level of stress that you're under. So when you're talking about management in this capacity, it's not as fast. It's not as fast.
Yeah.
But what happens
Yeah.
is you have constituency services. Now, what you do in Austin is totally different than what you do in Houston.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
true.
So Austin is 6 months every other year.
Right.
And then you're trying to push the agenda of your community as well as what's good for the state.
Yeah.
All right. And there's a lot of help there. So you're not
Okay.
working in isolation.
That's good.
But what
That's
you want to do is be efficient in how you run your office in Houston,
Right.
because that's where people are saying, I have a need. I have a son in jail. I have
Yeah.
a daughter that's trying to get into the military. I need you to do these other things. And you could easily say, that's not my responsibility.
Right.
But you realize as a principal, even if it's not your responsibility,
You still have to help.
you have to help.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes it is guiding them to the appropriate
Exactly.
place, right?
That's
So
a lot of times.
That's just my
Yeah.
experience. I start with that level. But at the same time, when I was serving on the State Board of Education, I became the leading member of the Democratic Party on the State Board of Education, just by attrition alone. I was there for 18 years.
Right.
Right.
And so
Oh,
when
wow.
new members would come to the State Board, they were looking to Lawrence for
Right.
guidance. And I am a listener first. I am a listener first. And you have to understand how to get things accomplished. Let me give
Yeah.
you an example. There was a community, ever heard of Sikhism?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Sikhism is the
Yes.
fifth largest religion in the world,
Right.
but they did not appear in our state standards as a religion.
Wow.
And so they came to the board over and over, said, we just want a simple mention that we are the fifth
That we exist.
largest religion in the world. You
Right.
have Christianity, you have Islam, you have Buddhism, you
Yeah.
have Judaism, and then you just totally skip over Sikhism.
Right.
It took me 6 years to get that into the state standards.
That's ridiculous.
6 years, a simple mention in the curriculum.
Right.
But that community was not advocating from Texas; they were advocating from New York.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
And we realized how important it was. If you see Mr. Allen walk in the Sikh
Mhm.
community, you'll think Alma Allen is here, because they want to say this man did something for us that
Right.
nobody else would do. And that's simply take us from the unseen
To the scene.
population to being seen.
Well, let me ask you this, Lawrence. And Rebecca, I know you wanted to jump into, but let me ask you this, because this is my little, I'm not going to say it's a pet peeve, but it is, I have a certain level of frustration when it comes to this. With the State Board of Education, with us currently being in a space where it is basically a Republican-run state,
Okay.
okay? And many of the State Board of Education members, the majority at this place in space, are Republican members. Is there a certain level of frustration with being able to represent your community and get things that done in the interest of our community when you're pushing back against so much?
Certainly there's a degree of frustration,
Yeah,
but it is no different than a football coach or a basketball coach.
yeah,
The opposition to you scoring is how well you put your offense out there.
yeah.
You realize over time what the defense is.
Mhm,
And if the defense is you have more Republicans than you have Democrats,
mhm.
then you know you cannot rely on just that simple metrics.
Okay,
It's got to get down to how well you have relationships with members who are outside your party. And
okay,
at some point they'll say, Lawrence deserves this, Crystal deserves this, because you've had those intimate moments where they
Right.
realize that you're trying to do something for a population that does not reflect East Texas. It does not
Yes.
reflect other parts of Texas.
You
Right.
mean these Republicans?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not. Let me make it clear. Now,
It was a different,
After-
it was a different day at time, Lawrence.
no,
15 years ago.
18 years.
There's a difference.
18 years, the makeup of the board changes. So
Okay,
even if
yes,
it's that
yes,
way
yes,
today,
yes.
the next election cycle, it may not
That's
be
true.
that way. All
That's
right.
true. That's
So
true.
you have to go with the what? Ebbs and flows.
That's
Right.
right.
Realizing I didn't get it done now, I put it in my things to do list, I'll bring it back.
Right.
So how did we pass the African American Studies course? How did we pass that?
I was so happy when they got
Listen to what I'm saying to you. It wasn't one year,
It
it
wasn't
wasn't
one
2 years, it
cycle.
wasn't 3 years, right?
Yeah.
But it was ebbs and flows.
Right.
Some of the members that were difficult working with prior to were no longer there.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we stayed with it. And then we added a young lady out of Dallas who was very influential in that. She's in the house now, Davis.
Mhm,
And she began to lead it from the Dallas side. I believe began to lead it from the Houston side.
mhm.
And we were able to have enough compassion on the
Yeah.
board for that issue
Right.
that we were able to get it through. The Hispanic Studies course, there was a member that had tried to get it for 20 years.
Right.
20 years.
Yeah.
And when we got it through, she was no longer on the board.
Yeah.
But we kept it in the things to do
Exactly.
list, right?
Exactly.
So I'm
That's
not
such a
saying to
growing
you that you don't
population,
have
yeah.
difficult individuals that are there at
Right.
certain time, but certain issues, like you would say earlier, I believe everything happens at the what?
Right.
Appropriate time.
Right.
I don't give up. I don't start throwing rocks across
Yeah.
the room and things of that nature. I just thank you for your vote today.
Right.
Tomorrow we'll talk about it again.
Yeah.
And but yet you realize that when you leave the meeting, even in the legislature, you're still going to dinner with these people. They're your
Exactly.
colleagues.
Exactly.
Right.
They're voting their district.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah, they're
The
representing
interest of their
They're voting their
constituents. That's
district.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so if their district sees it differently to you, let's not get frustrated over the vote.
Yeah.
Let's just try to understand why we vote that way. So I would say, tell me why you oppose what it is that I'm trying to do. Well, Lawrence, that'll get me. I won't be reelected
Right.
if I stand with that issue. That's
Right.
something in the Piney Woods that we just don't believe in.
Yeah.
Okay. I got to live with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Because we are making decisions for Texas,
Yeah.
not for Lawrence.
Yeah. And the thing about it is a lot of times, people will say, well, how can somebody get along with somebody this, or how can you understand? You have to bring it back to this. And this is probably just the most primal example of it. What my life experience is going to dictate what my thought process is. And if I have not suffered through these same things that you have, I'm going to have a different frame of reference.
Correct.
And you can't fault anybody for their frame of reference. You can try to talk to them and reason with them and just show them a different perspective. But you can't fault anybody for their own frame of reference.
That's true. And then
Yeah.
one day they will say, Lawrence, I just didn't understand it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Don't give up on the person because they're not at the same point on the issue with you,
Right.
because they're going to approach you as well and say, hey,
Exactly.
Lawrence, can you support, what I'd like to come forward with? And you might say, that's pretty difficult. And in our case, it'd be, I've got a charter that I want to have in my community. And I'll say, well, the Democrats are deaf on charter schools, what is it that you want me to do? You
Mhm.
want me not to get elected? And I had to come to a space where I said,
Yeah.
okay, it's no sense in me sitting here and
Yeah.
act like I'm not going to participate in the understanding of what charters would be good or not, because they got enough votes to get the charters through.
Yeah.
So I might as well participate and be supportive in ways with ones that I think would be good
Right.
for children. That
Mhm.
community wants it. I think it's be good. I'll vote for that one. If I didn't vote for it, it was still going through.
Well, you know what? In that vein, Lawrence, I want to ask you this because I've taught in charter school
Mhm.
as well as public school, and I will say this: I have seen public schools, and with you being an administrator in the largest public school system in Texas, you've seen this. There is sometimes going to be that demographic of student that's very difficult to keep in your regular population.
Okay.
You know the ones I'm talking about, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
The ones
incorrigible
who, well, the ones who may end up over at High Point or one of those schools like that, right? And sometimes our school, for example, the school that I'm at, we just are not necessarily equipped to handle that type of student in volume.
Okay.
And if you don't have a BSc class or that kind of thing, there needs to be a place where these students can be. No student under the age of 18, I think that if they have any type of desire, any type of aptitude, should be in a place where they cannot be educated or get some type of education somewhere.
Okay.
I believe that in an instance like that, there are spaces for specialized schools.
All right.
Now, many people say there are not spaces for specialized schools or charter schools anywhere but the thing about it is I've lived it where public schools have thrown their hands up and it's certain kids they don't want. I mean, they just don't have the equipment and the capacity and the manpower.
But here's the thing though, when it comes to funding,
Yeah.
okay, when it comes to funding, and,
Mhm.
we've gone overboard with this funding conversation.
Mm-hmm. Lean in.
My problem is, and not just my problem, but the problem that so many other people are having
Mm-hmm.
that are public school advocates.
Right.
I don't want you to take tax dollars from us, the tax dollars that we have, to build schools over here when we have schools over here that need
When
our
you-
direct attention.
When you have schools over here, but I'm talking about in a specialized instance is what
Okay.
I'm talking about. Where would your position be, or where do you think we should go forward in a situation like that where we need places for some of these kids to be?
There is no question about that.
Yeah.
What you're saying is that there has to be a tailored situation where students can actually be successful.
Right.
My wife was a principal of an alternative school.
Okay.
So it's very, very successful. The implementation of restorative practices.
Yes.
Students that were on borderline of going to prison and things of that nature.
Yes.
They had to even go to what they called a flex day, where some of those students came for 3 hours a day. Some of those students came 3 days a week. They had to
Okay.
meet those students where
Where
they
they are.
were.
Yeah.
Right.
And most of them graduated.
Wow.
Okay. They went from instruction face-to-face to online instruction with support staff around them.
Was this an ISD?
This was
it
in
an
it was a
ISD?
staff from municipal
Wow.
school district,
Okay.
an outstanding program.
Right.
I got the chance to see it face-to-face. Each
Right,
week there
right.
were guest speakers. Now, they don't have a large school district.
Right.
Oh, of
They're
course not.
3,200. So we're talking about an alternative school with 40 children.
Exactly.
So you can tailor some things. That was a wellness center where the students could just
Wow.
call their own time out
Yes.
and go sit on
I love
with a counselor.
Exactly.
They would have counselors that came in from the outside,
Mhm.
and then they would sit on the couch. They would talk to these counselors weekly. Now this is something that was very innovative, and I would almost say it was a pilot program of sorts, if
Okay.
you would. But we saw the success in it. But it was the restorative practices. Now,
Right.
what you said to me earlier is sometimes we inundated with numbers even higher than that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it takes away from the environment, and it becomes the norm in the environment.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when that happens, now we're all in an alternative school.
That's right.
We all in there.
And I'm laughing. I made that statement one time. What we sending them there for? They already here.
But look at the migration in the education system, what
Yeah.
happened. Because if you go back to when Crystal and I were in school, you had group 1, group 2, group 3, and whatever, the duck, the chicken, and the cow all in the same room.
Yeah.
And we didn't understand if anybody had anything there. You had to just learn. But the reality is, over time, we started to identify children with certain issues. We started to loosen up some of our discipline policies and ways in life. And then all of a sudden, there was an attack on the education system where the total respect for the teacher was taken out.
Yes.
Right? And so since there's no respect for the teacher, really no respect for the principal today, you work
Right.
for me, parents come in, I pay taxes, you work
Yes.
for me.
Yes.
And then we're having to teach parents now how to partner with the school. Because every school has success stories, no matter what it is. I don't care what the market and the goal is.
Excuse me.
If you go in that building, you will find pockets
Absolutely.
of excellence.
That's right.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
right. I
of
have seen
course.
children go from room 101 and act a fool, but when they go to room 106, they don't open
That's
their mouth.
right. That's right.
So
Yes.
there's a pedagogy there.
That's right.
And that's what you said earlier. Why? Because they feel valued in there.
Yeah.
They feel valued in your classroom.
Right.
I'm gonna give you a little story. I had a young man one time. He wasn't in trouble, but
Mhm.
he was 6'6", 300 and maybe
Leaning.
35 pounds.
Mhm,
Big guy, outstanding athlete for us.
Okay.
And he would simply come to my office to eat. Okay, he would knock on the back door.
He felt comfortable.
Felt comfortable.
Yeah.
Felt valued. Okay, to eat.
Right.
Right, and so I would make sure I had a little pizza, order him a pizza or what have you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was in the middle of his English class. Can I go see Mr. Allen? I'm home. Now, I don't know if you ate last night at home
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
but there was somebody there that was willing to meet that need.
Exactly.
That's what you did. That's what you did. Sometimes the need is just listening.
That's a
Right.
lot of times. A
It's just
lot of
listening.
times the need is listening.
And we forget that students act out so that they can be paid attention to.
Right.
That's true.
Now, I've seen on a number of occasions as a principal,
Mm-hmm.
when no matter what that child did, when that parent comes in that door, you realize right away what the problem is.
Exactly.
So I am
Exactly.
a microcosm of the macrocosm.
That's right.
Right.
I'm only demonstrating to you what I see on a
Yeah,
daily
yeah.
basis, right?
Right.
So I take the blame off the child because this is the person we need in the future,
Right.
right?
Right.
So every nuance of me as an educator is about seeing you successful. Now, do I need to send you to an alternative school? Probably do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But not in the sense of
A punishment.
putting you away.
That's
but
right.
getting you the help that you need.
That's
Right.
right.
I'm taking you to hospice,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where you can get the kind of intense
That's right.
treatment. So we have
And
to
I
take
never
the
looked at
stigma
it like
off alternative
that.
schools,
I
right?
never looked at it like that.
And but here's the thing. So many ISDs at this point.
Are closing them.
Yeah. And they
Affordability.
not just affordability, but to a degree, Lawrence, we see so many profound issues that the students are coming in with, that they weren't coming in. We have students who have severe chronic drug problems and, this kind of thing. And honestly, when you are up against that in the classroom, it's very difficult to service them along with the other kids. That
And
you're
not
sitting
just
there
drug
with.
problems. You
Yeah.
got kids who have severe
Emotional.
mental problems.
That's right.
I mean,
Emotional.
when I say severe, I mean so severe to ain't no instruction getting done right now because
Okay.
Yeah.
you have to deal with this, and then you have administrators who think that the issue is, let me get this baby a bag of chips and sodas and bring them back to your home, and it's like, do you not see? He told my class, Mama, this is your solution.
Yeah, but you also, as an educator, a teacher in the classroom, has rights,
Yeah,
and many teachers don't know their rights.
that's true.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord,
You have
that's so
Senate
true.
bills that says you had a right of refusal
Yeah.
Right.
over the principal.
You're right.
All right. And so if you've done your due diligence, had your conferences, it disturbed the instruction in your class,
Yes.
Right.
you own that space.
That's right.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true.
That's right.
You own that space. And so sometimes we still try to be a team player even through our frustration.
Yes, you
Yeah.
do. You
Right.
have to.
But
You
the
have to.
reality of it is that the onus of your classroom is on you.
That's
And
right.
if Lawrence Jr. is not good for the other students in the classroom, you have to refuse his what? Entry.
True, right.
All right.
Right.
You have to refuse it. And if you do that, you don't look like you're a team player. She's more difficult
Yeah.
than others, you know.
Right.
And so we don't, and there's no room. This is why we go back to properly funding schools.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, properly funding schools.
Yes.
Because the issues we're talking about says they could be met if we had
The
that
proper
particular
funding.
space where this child should
Yeah.
go, the right personnel there, the right supports that he needs, properly funded.
Right.
Nobody is calculating these kind of difficult emotional issues that we're dealing with on a daily basis. right?
That's right.
Nobody's calculating that. They're just saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, $625.
Yeah.
Go and do your work.
But I think a little of that falls on, and then I have another question follow up. But I think a lot of that falls on the superintendents, right? Because even so, we were in a legislative. Well, I was in a legislative summit with some legislators this summer, and that was one of the concerns because they had just come out of session. They were getting ready to go back into special session.
Yeah.
And education was on the docket for that.
Okay.
And just having a dialogue where, you know, the issues that we're all talking about now,
Yeah.
certain legislators was like, well, we're not hearing that in Austin.
Oh yeah.
And
We went to Austin.
no,
With the,
this
with
was
the union. Yeah.
no, but I referred to that.
Mhm.
I said they're not going to address it because the people that are talking to you are the superintendents. And do you think they're going to want their monies cutting off if they told you what was really going on? No, they're going to show you their spreadsheets and they're going to show you their data and they're going to make everything look good because if there is something that is off or wrong, they know that money that they desperately need is going to get cut off. And why would I cut my money source off? So of course I'm going to lie to you and tell you everything is Jim Dandy. So, and that's what I was explaining to them. You're not talking to the people that are really having the issues. You're talking to the soups, and the soups want monies for their district. So they're going to dress it up and they're going to make it seem like it's Jim Dandy.
Well, I have a question to that. And I would say to this, Rebecca, maybe I'm not hearing you right, but if the superintendents are telling them everything is okay, then they are feeling like that they don't need any more money. Why would I give them more money if everything is okay? And everything is not okay. But as we've talked about on the podcast before, we have a rainy day fund.
right.
We have more and more students that need to be served, but less and less per student. I mean, less and less money per student, you know, going in every year. And how do we get around that kind of thing? What do you think, or can the legislators come together and carve through that in some kind of way so that we can be able to have the types of funds we need for a school like a pilot type program that's working?
I agree with you, but I'm saying to you at the same time, 60% of the state's budget is education. 60%
Okay.
is spent on education. So I'm not saying to you that we don't need more,
Right.
but we have to find out where's more going to
Come
come
from.
from.
Yeah.
All right. And so what we have to understand that it happens in increments over time.
Okay.
So how are we actually supporting students today? Let me give you an example.
Mhm.
As a principal, the state
Mhm.
will say to you, we give you $10,000 per child. If they have
Okay.
any additional needs, then we get some weights and you get additional dollars. You've heard that
Okay.
as an educator all your
Okay.
life.
Right.
As a principal, I
Right.
only get about 4,000 per child in
Right.
the building.
Yes.
So the state is saying, how are you not able to educate the child when we're giving you 10,000? I'm telling you, as a building
Okay.
principal, I'm getting 4,000.
Okay. Once it trickles down,
Right.
that's the amount.
So
that
now
you come up
someone
with.
will say to me in administration, I'm going to the
Mhm.
superintendent's, well, we provide transportation for our students. Well, it's costing us, now that the gas is over $4 a
Right.
gallon,
Right.
it takes a lot of the budget.
Yes, it does.
Well, we enjoy students playing 48 sports a year, all
Yes.
night, every night. We got to buy
It
bowls
eats
and
into the
everything else.
budget. Yeah.
Right.
Now I'm taking it out of the classroom.
Yeah.
We got to have ancillary activities and things of that
Yeah.
nature.
Oh, of
for children,
course.
theoretically.
Yeah.
But when the accountability system doesn't ask you about any of that, it
Right.
asks you about the bottom line.
Yeah.
What's occurring in the classroom with the teacher.
Right.
And so what we have to do, and it's a mindset, and since
Yeah.
we're going with the magic wand,
Yeah.
we have to have a privatized mindset for extracurricular things. We have to have a privatized mindset for extracurricular things.
And explain that to me.
What means is all dollars go to the most needed space first.
Right.
Of course.
I agree with that.
Now-
That makes sense.
Right. So if the classroom needs 6,000,
Mm-hmm.
then we put 6,000 there.
Okay.
If we now have a few dollars left and we want to play sports, we start partnering with businesses for sports
Okay.
and play,
Yeah.
not interrupting what we do in the classroom.
Right.
That every child's academic needs are met by the funding that comes from the state, not your extracurricular activities.
Well, Lawrence, let me ask you
But
this.
funding
Let's
has
say that
been-
hypothetically. Let's say hypothetically.
Magic
that's-
wand now. I'm not-
Yeah.
Of course. Of course. Of course.
That's a great idea. Let's say hypothetically that is something that people say, you know what? I think we're going to go with that. But in that same vein, how do you I have a corporation that wants to partner with Yates over here.
All right.
Okay, but Walter Corporation doesn't want they may feel like they don't have the football team or whatever. A corporation don't want to partner with them. Now, do you get a corporation who is going to say, okay, I'm going to donate a certain amount and that gets split up?
You go to the New York system. What
Okay.
happens is that, let's say HID
Wait a
has-
minute, what is the New York?
let's say you have 32 schools in HID. That doesn't mean you have to have 32 teams.
Woo! Okay.
You don't have to have 32 teams. In New
Okay.
York, for example, you might have 10 children, 10 schools, they have one team.
So you kind of consolidate.
You consolidate the
Okay.
athletic component.
With
Okay.
263 schools?
I'm gonna give you an example.
We're talking about
Let's say if
schools
I
that
had
have sports.
Jones,
Yeah.
Sterling, and Worthy.
Right.
Right.
But it's a privatized mindset, like AAU basketball, AAU
Right.
football.
Right.
There is a team. You got to make that team.
Okay.
So
Okay.
everybody comes together on the same
On
team.
that team. So we don't have 3 coaches, we have 1, theoretically. We're not paying for all of these others because we have 1. I'm not saying that it's the ideal thing.
No, but that's
I'm saying,
that's
if
the
I
concept.
if
That's the
my
concept.
house and I have $10,
That's
we
the
gotta pay
concept. Yeah.
rent first,
That's right.
car notes,
Yeah.
and now I only
Yeah.
have $2 for chicken. We
Yeah.
gotta make a decision.
That's right. That's
We gotta
right.
make a tough
Yeah.
decision. So
Yeah.
we will not have 3 programs in the 3 high schools, but we will have sports, A team, B team, all that. And there is a complex, Delmar, whatever, in the center where they
Yeah.
practice and meet. So yes, it's not the ideal thing from a traditional mindset. Oh, I'm a Jack Yates Lion. I'm a Jones Falcon,
Right.
right? No, you are a South HISD team
But
member.
then
So,
that,
with
that
the-
means that all of the coaches at those schools that you mentioned, all of the ADs at those schools that you mentioned.
Somebody might not have a job.
They will
Yeah.
not have a job. They're not going to have a job anyway. We don't have the money.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, y'all. Okay. So what we go? I get it. Then now that's a
Who these comments
That's
gonna
a-
come in?
Wait a minute.
I'm not
No.
talking about shutting down. I'm saying ideally. Let me make sure I clear this.
Yeah,
I
please
said
put
you
that in.
first make sure that the academic needs are funded first.
But and what you're saying is not that particular concept could not graduate back out into individuals if you get more partners.
Let me give
To
you
come
an example. That's Principal Jones High School.
Mhm.
All right. It came that I had to purchase sports. It's not automatic that your school plays in these different sports. When you get your budget,
Mhm.
you submit X number of dollars to the athletic department for your children to participate. Now, so if you go to Jones, there's no swim team.
Right.
Nobody's seeing that. You go to
Okay.
Jones, there's no golf team. Why? Because we didn't pay for it.
Baseball teams.
Some
Yeah.
Lee High School years ago, before it became Wisdom, didn't have a football team.
Right,
Coach,
right.
The school, SDMC, all decided
Yes.
we're not doing well
Okay.
there. We're doing other
Gotcha.
things.
Gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
because I go to Lee,
Uh-huh.
I can still go and play for the other school.
Like they did at HSPVA,
You understand what I'm saying?
Health Profession.
They
Right.
used to. They don't let them do it anymore.
Wow.
They don't let them do it anymore. But at the same time, take that model. When I was principal at Jones, we had students on the team that
Right.
came from those schools
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they didn't have it there. You didn't see it in a mass way, and nobody was bothered by it. But what I said to you, in a time of difficulty,
Right.
COVID,
Right.
things are different.
That's right. It
Right.
changed everything.
It changes everything.
Yeah.
And so if we are losing our strength in our state because we're not able to educate our children properly,
Right.
we take the loss in the extracurricular.
You
area.
have to. You have
Right?
to. Yeah. Yeah. You have to.
You take the loss. Now, if I'm sitting over here at Lamar with
Yeah.
3,200 children,
Yeah.
then maybe we have all of the sports at Lamar.
Right.
Yeah.
But if I'm sitting here at Yates with 700, Jones with 700,
Yeah.
Wheatley with 700, Sterling with 700, that makes up the same size school as Lamar.
That's
and you
right.
make up the same size athletic program.
And
Now, with that,
simply
now, with that,
because
with that in
too,
mind, with that in mind, Lawrence,
Yes.
let me ask. We got to shift gears for just a minute
Okay.
because we got to shift gears just for a minute. With that in mind, and I think that's a novel concept. That is, and that's a realistic concept. Now, with that in mind, the closing of these schools
Okay.
in HISD, people are up in arms
Surely.
about the closing of the schools. And I think it is a nostalgic feeling, why people are upset. And Well, let me say this. Let me finish, and then. But I think a lot of it has to do with nostalgia because some of these schools may only have 300 kids in it now.
All right.
Some of these schools may only be down to 170, or something like this. And to maintain an entire elementary school with such a low enrollment, to maintain it, it's going to be the same amount that it would be to maintain a school with 600
Like
kids in it.
Coulter, who got
Okay.
1,000 elementary school kids.
Okay, yeah. Okay, but then you got some of the smaller ones. And this is my mother and I, we were talking the other night, and she said, and she had to make me think about something and think through something that's happening over in my district now in Fort Bend. She said, Crystal, let me explain to you what happens with these districts sometimes. She said, when I moved out here, we lived in Bayou Terrace, right behind the fire station, number 55. Okay. And she said, when I moved out here, there were young families buying these houses. Everybody had armed babies and families growing. Now, those schools were fully populated when those kids were growing up, the middle school, the high school, but there's a cycle there.
Yes, ma'am.
And when that cycle ends, you might come up on a situation, let's say, i.e. the 80s came around and kids started graduating. Then you had some epidemics that hit and different kinds of things where people were not able to maintain houses. And you had a recession that hit, everything hit in 1, 2, 3. Right. And people began, for whatever reason, moving out of that area because it was not ideal to live there anymore. Now, we have a resurgence of people wanting to come back into an area that is a more inner city area now. Everybody's not trying to run to the suburbs anymore. Then you have a lot of building. However, the demographics are changing.
Okay.
Do you feel that it is ever justified to close a school because the cycle of the family has changed and the cycle of the family is not coming back anytime soon? Or do you think that these ISDs need to repurpose these schools in some kind of way?
Theoretically, a person would say to you that that's a natural progression.
It really kind of is.
It's the ebb and flow.
But in reality, if anybody is paying attention to patterns and growth patterns, you make decisions 20 years before things occur.
Right.
So what I'm saying to you is, in a nutshell, mom is right from a viewpoint.
Yeah.
All right. But what happens to our schools, even in the sense of creating boundary lines,
right? You
don't have enough children in Lamar's administrative district to even have a high school.
Right.
Now they had aging patterns and everything else there.
Yeah.
But they
because River Oaks is an old community.
But you still have 3,500 students, right? Because they come from where?
All
over the
right.
city. So we realize that if there is something of value there, people will what?
Come to it. That's right.
So even if I'm in a school where, like Lamar,
right,
where it's an aging community around it, it's still viable and attractive to parents. And so they get on the bus or travel to be at this school. Every school has to be attractive.
A magnet.
Now, let's not say magnet because that was the first rule.
Well, not a magnet in that way. Yeah.
I don't care what it is. If it's something good, people come.
Exactly. Okay? They are.
I don't care if it's music. If you got the best music program in the city, people are coming. If you got the best swimming program, people are coming. That's right. And so it is a natural progression to say, hey, this school is going to be have less students because it's an aging population.
Yes.
Somebody has to begin to say, well, where are the children going to live? And you got to be able to move the lines, right? You have to be able to move the lines. Now, you can't move the building, but you can move the lines, the boundaries. And so what happens now is this is what's killing us. And this is the fact. But you can move the lines, but if I allow you to put a charter school in those same lines, right?
Bingo.
Then whether that's a good school or not, it's going to pull from the school that we're already having difficulty, and we're having this aging problem at the same time. Yeah. So when I was on the board, HISD, you would have to get a impact statement from a school district in your packet to present to the board members before you got your charter. And every one of those impact statements that I read from HISD
Right.
said if this will overcrowd our district. So if I'm talking about, I'm go back to my own school.
What would overcrowd the district?
What I'm saying, overcrowd is in the sense where if I'm at Hobby, which is one of the schools on
Elementary,
on-
yeah,
That's close.
yeah.
right, and
yeah.
I'm already dealing with attrition in
Right.
Harlem Clark,
Right.
300, and you say, okay, I'm going to park a Yes Prep on Anderson Road, elementary school.
Right.
It doesn't have to pull 300; it can pull 100.
And
And
still,
now
and
Hobby is
still,
on the what?
that's right.
Decline.
That's
That year,
right.
the next year, as the principal, I'm now cutting teachers. I'm
That's
cutting
right.
support services.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best to keep my instruction up.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with overcrowdedness
Right.
because I don't have enough teachers, second grade, third grade, first grade, kindergarten, and all
Right.
those
So
things.
now classes are getting bigger.
You got what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the charter school is not doing a fantastic job of teaching, but when you crowd an
It's
area,
affecting it. It's
right?
affecting it.
and
That's
you
right.
come in the boundaries. Now, regardless of what I'm doing at HISD
Mhm.
to keep the population equitable in every campus,
Right.
when that outside institution comes in, my entire graph
Skewed.
now
That's right.
is skewed.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants new.
Right. And so what does the state say to you? And they never should have. That we'll give you incentive dollars if you will develop or start your charter in an area where we think there is a struggling school.
Oh,
Well, the state should say there is a struggling school here. So we're going to give our district a time
To
to
build
what?
that.
to
school.
build the strength of that
That's right.
school before we put a charter in
Yeah.
that area. What I do like, I'll tell you this, and I do
Mhm.
like Harmony, what Harmony is doing.
Mhm.
They're in the suburbs.
Yeah, they are.
They're
They
all
are.
over the
Yeah.
areas, the fast growth areas in the city.
Yeah.
They're not sitting here saying, okay, Worthing's not good, not doing a good job, so we're going to park a school across
Yeah,
the street. They're
yeah,
not doing
yeah.
that.
right.
They're going into areas where parents can really make a choice to say, hey, you're going to
Because,
Bridgeland, or
right,
you're going to
because that's
Harmony.
what I was going to say. Because in those areas, it's either private, public, or charter.
And if they have children,
Right.
right? Like you said,
It's a lots of kids.
lots of children to go
kids.
around.
Yeah.
Nobody's being homeless.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a different service in
Right.
that area. So what I'm saying to you, we have to protect our schools, especially those who are elected officials.
Yeah.
And when there are unwritten rules at the board, and there are written rules
Right.
at the board, and that's where those conversations are. So when I was on the board, if
Mhm.
I did not want a charter in my area, just
Mhm.
me, the single member
Yeah.
the board would honor me in that.
Yeah.
Because that was an unwritten respect
Right.
that
Yeah.
we had. Because I know my district better than anybody else.
So here's the thing, and where I had to disagree with Crystal when she said it was all about the nostalgia. No, it's not. And I'm going to tell you why. Because what the people were angry about, nostalgia might have a little something to do
Yeah.
with
It
it,
did.
but no, what the people are angry about was conversation was not given to them. When you are closing schools, the normal progression of things
Absolutely.
from where I'm seeing it is, the district will have community meetings with parents, community leaders, and it would be a conversation back and
Well, that's
forth.
been a pattern with
Yeah.
this particular superintendent.
Right, and I get it.
Yeah.
So that's where that's I'm not used to being this far.
I know. I know.
But this is where the anger from the community has come in
Mhm.
because there were no conversation.
Yeah.
And then when the communities, and I saw that all over Facebook and even teachers who reached out to me and said, when we tried to ask questions, we were shut down. We were asked to leave at a community meeting.
That's a pattern.
Right.
Mhm.
It was shut down, their arguments, and then they were talked to condescendingly and sarcastically. And then everybody saw the HISD board meetings across all social media sites, and then it turned into what you saw.
Right.
The back end of it, the back end of it was that this is how the community meetings were structured. Nobody
that's true.
could get anything across. So
Very true.
the anger was coming in because even when we were at the polls, when we were at the polls, and I was talking to your voters and your voters,
Yeah.
that was one of the number one issues that were coming up, saying
The closing of the schools.
the
yeah.
closing of the schools, and they were laying the feet at, of course we know better because we know it's progression, like you
Right.
said, in those things, but you talking to a public who don't understand how all of this works.
Yeah.
Okay, but let me say this to you. One, especially in the position that we were vying for,
Mhm.
you have to set a law. A board of managers should not be able to close any schools.
Thank you.
Okay? A board of managers
Right.
should not have the
That's right.
authority to close any school.
Right.
Why? It's because we brought you in with an appointed superintendent as the experts to improve everything in that
Mhm.
district, primarily up under the auspices of 2 failing schools. So if
Exactly.
you had gone in and corrected the 2 failing schools, you would have done your job already
That's
because
right.
the district was solvable
That's
at that time. So if you're going to go deeper into it, and from the time of your entry, your enrollment in the district is 25,000 down,
Yes.
the
Yes.
state has to hold the district harmless and find the dollars to continue
Oh,
to
see,
work.
now that I did not know.
Okay, you need to find the dollars and hold that district harmless.
Yes.
Because when you lose 25,000 children, you have to consolidate and close schools.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
that tells us as educators, if you lost 25,000 students,
Mm-hmm.
then there are people who are rejecting what you have to offer.
That's right.
Right? And now the person that is offering
right.
it is not my elected board,
That's
is
right.
not my hired superintendent. And now you're making decisions for communities that you're going to leave in the next year or so.
That's right.
Now, let me give you an example.
Lasting decisions.
Last thing, you close a school, you close one school
Mhm.
in a community like ours.
Right.
Like ours. I'm talking about Black and brown community.
That's right.
One convenience store normally will give you a check that year for some support at your campus.
Right.
You're having something,
Right.
they write you a check for $250.
Right.
You don't.
Right.
School's gone. You don't do it. You don't have money. The convenience store lives off the school. Everybody that drops their children off gets a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Everybody that comes by buys a set of donuts. Everybody forgot later bought some diapers.
Yeah.
Everybody lives on the mobility of a school.
Right.
Right.
When you take the school out of a community, you begin to kill the economics in the small businesses
Absolutely.
in the community.
Absolutely.
The needs. So it's not just the school,
Yeah.
it's the economic system that drives that community.
Right.
Right? The minute you get up, and Crystal can tell you this, the minute your child gets up and leaves that community to go somewhere else to get their learning, all of their natural relationships, friendships are formed outside of that community.
That's true.
Right? They're
Right.
formed outside of that community.
Yeah.
So when they want to go to a party, you still drive 30 miles to take them
Yeah.
to where their friends are.
Right.
They don't have a concept of understanding what community is all about.
Right.
And so there is a lot of destruction that goes on beyond in a community, goes on beyond. Now, this is the real issue. What do you do with the property? What
Yeah.
do you do with the property?
Yeah.
So I closed Hobby Elementary School. Look at Carnegie. What
Mhm.
Carnegie Elementary was, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So we closed
Yeah.
Carnegie Elementary. We put the children over there at Woodson,
Yeah.
right? And they were in temporary buildings. And
That's
we
right.
closed Carnegie. And now we can drive down Scott Street and see somebody growing plants
Yeah.
where the
The
school
elementary
used to be.
school was.
Community
Right,
garden.
yeah. The concept is when you sell the property, you can never put it back. You can never put it back, regardless of the decisions you made as a board.
What do you mean you can't put it back?
You don't own it anymore.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So if you lease the property, do something with it, because you have to realize,
Yeah.
look at it now. All around Hobby, houses are popping up all over the place.
Mhm.
Apartments are popping up.
Mhm.
You don't have a progression plan to talk about a school. The
That's
first
true.
thing parents will do when they move into a community
Is
look
ask
for
about the school.
That's right.
Sure
Right?
will.
They will ask about the school. Now, I'm not saying that the location where Hobby is, because
It's
that is an
ideal.
aging community.
That's right. That's
But at
right.
some point, maybe they should have been in position to tear that one down and build the new Hobby
Right.
where the growth was.
That's right. Yeah.
Because if I'm going to bust the 4 from the aging side, I
Right.
still need to have the Hobby where the children are.
Yeah.
Right.
See, that's forward thinking. If we
Yeah.
continue to pour money into this building, in this
Right.
area, it's not going to sustain itself
Yeah.
because we won't have 75-year-olds having babies over here.
That's right.
It's time now to sell
Yeah.
this property, not close it already. And when we ask you for these bond elections, we've
Mhm.
already given you these projections,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
So when we build the new school, it's because of these what? Projections.
Right.
And now the children in this community go to Hobby on Stanford
Yeah.
now.
Right.
Now,
So,
let me
I do have
say.
a question.
Well, hang on one second. Let me ask you this, Lawrence. With what you just said in mind, it's important that people understand that what happens with schools is a normal type of attrition that happens when communities age.
When they age.
Yeah, and it's always important. I'm just gonna make a synopsis of this. It's always important to have a plan in order for what is going to happen when 20 years down the line,
Migration
25
patterns,
years.
right?
Yes. Now, I'm gonna let Rebecca ask this, then I'm gonna switch to something as far as demographics are concerned.
So one of the things that me and Crystal said with at the very beginning of her campaign, we were looking at the maps, and I didn't realize how big y'all district is.
Okay.
I just
And jagged. Yeah,
it
like
was
a boomerang almost.
And then we went and we desegregated the number of people that live there. So the estimate is 190,000 people, and now that's since 2023.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it's way more now, I'm sure. So how do you plan as state representative to, I don't want to say meet the needs, but how can I say this? How do you plan on, I guess, meet the needs? I guess that's the only thing I could think of right now.
Very good
Hey,
question.
hang on, Lawrence. Before you answer that, I think my question was going to be similar, so you might be able to hit them. Might be able to hit them at the same time. 131, changing demographics, changing before our eyes.
Okay.
Okay, and with that in mind, I mean a demographic that is not changing, just a little bit at a time. That's changing quickly. Okay. If you look at Mr. and Miss Worthen this year, okay, look different from
The Hispanic?
Oh,
And
Mr.
that's
Madison is too.
yeah. And that's okay. That's okay. Now with that,
They used to be white.
that's true. Now, that's true.
All
That's
right.
true. Yeah. But
right.
that's true. That's true because things are cyclical.
Yes, ma'am.
But with that in mind, how is it? I mean, it's very important that our people that represent us feel a good sense of having a touch point with each part of that community. And even when you go out the A-Leaf side, more and more Asians, South Asians.
It's 190,000 people that reside as of 2023 in your district.
Sure.
So how do you meet the needs and the FaceTime and bring in those different community groups? Because y'all district 131, as we were doing the research, is y'all have the largest diverse district
Mhm.
in the state of Texas,
Yeah.
not just in Houston, but in the state of Texas.
Let's break it down in terms of what your responsibility is,
Okay.
so that you don't see people as ethnic groups.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, because when flooding happens, it doesn't pick an ethnic group.
Mhm.
Of course.
Right. When it's educational needs, it's not picking an
Ethnic
ethnic
group.
group. All right.
Right.
When we're talking about prison time and laws, it's not picking an
An
ethnic group.
You're
So
right.
we have to take ethnicity off what the state representative does
Okay.
in Austin.
Okay.
All right, because remember, you vote your district.
Mhm.
Right.
And if you vote your district and you have a dynamic like that, you can begin to split the thought of your district when you use ethnicity as a
Measuring stick.
measuring stick
Mhm.
for how you're going to do things. So what's going
Right.
to come out of that community? First and foremost, if you are meeting with the various parts of the district, you want to formulate the agenda for 131. It
Right.
won't be 100 things. It'll probably be 10 things.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
That for this particular cycle, this 6-month period, this is what we're trying to accomplish. Right.
Mhm.
That's for the district. That's for the district. And that's for the whole of the district. That's where you've gone to your town halls, you've gone out, had some Zooms
Right.
and conversations. We want to bring additional funds for the mediation of flooding. We want to
Right.
bring additional dollars because we want to be able to restructure some of our parks in our communities. We want to bring additional dollars to education so that we can retain teachers over the time. So everybody benefits from the general concepts of what
Okay.
a state representative does.
Right.
Exactly.
All right. So now, whether your school is 99% Hispanic or 99% Black or 90% white, it's being cared for from a concept of how you treat a system.
Okay.
All right. And so that's how you have to operate with a big picture mindset. And when people think that they can get their personal balloon blowed up, you have to tell them we won't be doing that.
Operate within a system. Kind of break that down for people who may, like, for example, that means what?
When you are talking about like statewide Texas,
Okay.
Texas, when you have to think Texas,
Right.
okay, we have 5 million plus children attending school in Texas.
Right.
So someone would ask you about the Robin Hood Act, because
Right.
one part of my district might be considered
like
a wealthy
that.
district.
Yeah.
I love
Yes.
Another part of my
that.
district
Yeah.
would be considered a poverty poor district.
Exactly.
Texas did
Right.
get that one right.
And so
Yeah.
Houston ISD is considered a property rich district.
Isn't that something?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Property rich.
property rich
Because
district.
if you think about it, HISD sits in every major area in, you talking about the Port of Houston, you
Right.
talking about the oil and gas, there's HISD property in
Okay.
those
Right.
regions.
So when
Okay, so-
someone is approaching me at the state and they say, we want to do away with Robin Hood because in Houston, we want to keep our dollars.
Okay.
I live in Houston. It's in 131. Sounds like a viable plan
Right.
for improving 131.
Right.
But that child in El Paso is going to suffer.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
You understand what
Yeah.
I just said? So yes, it might fit the conversation for the individuals in Houston.
Right.
If we allow to keep our dollars, Ms. Allen, we can do all that you
Yeah.
said. We can have all these programs. We can do everything for our children
Yeah.
in Houston. But yet the children over there in the bottom of Piney Woods Country Town won't have it because they don't
Right.
have the taxable dollars to bring it in. There is a school district somewhere, I think in East Texas, where the superintendent makes $700,000 a year, and he has
Whoa.
less than 100 children.
Woo!
Okay, less than 100 children. Why?
It almost
You hear me? Because we can't operate a school system without a superintendent.
That's
Of
right.
course.
Right, and nobody wants to live there.
Wow.
So in order to attract a superintendent, someone with the what? Certifications and all of that.
Wow.
That means
Wow.
we might be living somewhere with one street light. And
Isn't that something?
I'm sitting here going to this town because they had to raise the what? Salary
Right.
to attract me so we could have our school. 50% of the school districts in Texas have less than 500 children. I didn't say schools. I said school
districts.
Yeah, because
districts.
most of it is rural.
You got
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
most of it is
Right.
rural.
You got
Yeah.
you got to say, okay, now this is look at what I just said to you. In Houston, if
Yeah.
we were able to keep all of our tax dollars in Houston, we wouldn't have this funding
That's right.
conversation.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
But as a state representative, I have to still think for the state, even though I vote my district.
Right.
And I think that's where that's where the concept is missed, right? Because when you're talking to voters think that you're going to the polls to vote for their district, right? Nobody is thinking statewide, even though it's a state seat
Yeah.
in the state legislature, but people are not thinking that.
And I'm glad you brought that.
Right. People are
aspect out
thinking,
because
what are you
people
gonna
don't
do for-
understand.
Right.
That's right. Right.
Right.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That has been, again, I've had a chance to talk to a lot of voters across Houston in 131. And that was the thing. It was a us. Now I
And
get
they
it.
still think that.
Yeah,
Because they just
but-
don't know.
They just
Yeah.
don't know. So then how do you explain that? Because there's some education, teachers, right? There's some education that needs to go along with that for voters to actually understand
What your capacity
what your
actually is.
capacity actually is.
Yes.
Because if something goes
Because they get
wrong,
frustrated. Yeah.
right? Because if something goes wrong, they gonna come to you. Well,
Yeah.
I voted for you, so you should have been able to fix this.
You're
So
absolutely
explain that.
correct. You're absolutely correct.
explain
But
that.
today,
Mhm.
like what we're doing today, we didn't have this. We can speak directly to
Yeah.
individuals who want to be engaged.
Right.
That's why I said to you, the agenda is so important.
Mm-hmm.
These are the 10 things that 131 is working on for 131.
Right.
These 10 things,
Right.
not the 200,000
Exactly.
things
Yeah.
that people like. But for this session, we're working on these 10 things. And you can see and track the bills that whether it was accepted, whether it wasn't, whether it went forward, whether it went to
Oh, I
committee.
do all the time.
Okay, so you can track what our agenda is.
Right.
And so you can say Lawrence, Allen, Crystal, Dillard, they were true to the agenda. Now,
Right.
there are 8,000 bills coming through the
Yeah.
legislature, but we have 10 specifically agreed
Right.
upon bills that we wanted for House District 131, right?
Right.
And so you have to measure your representative on how well he represented that agenda.
Okay.
That agenda. All right. Now, all of a sudden, the big ticket item, the governor, I'll give you one. I'm gonna go back to one. I want you to understand the conversation we were having earlier. Last session, the bill passed where a child now can be expelled indefinitely.
Yeah.
All right. Now,
Yeah.
and people may have celebrated that, but remember the conversation we were having.
Teachers were all over the
Some of
state.
these children are so incorrigible. Some of them, but now you had a right to put them out. What does indefinite mean, teacher? Never to return.
That's right.
And it didn't say to an alternative school.
It just said I don't
It said indefinitely.
And that's what I'm talking about when I said there is a place for there needs to be a place for kids that people have thrown their hands up.
But that's not what the House bill says, though.
No.
Grant you, if I take the statistics
Mhm.
and say, well, where are the most incorrigible children?
Of course,
They
we
have-
already
they
know
look
what they're
just
gonna
like
be.
on
Mhm.
paper, they look just like you and I.
Mhm.
So what they're actually doing is assigning them to prison.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we say, okay, I need some relief. I need some, it's too difficult dealing with them.
Yeah.
I'm cheering. They can get out of here indefinitely now. But you still got to deal with the fact he's going to prison.
Yeah.
And we're not, the education is not the stopgap to save everything, but we can't let that kind of legislation go
That's
through.
right.
And
That's
then
right.
it's misused on us. The young man who had
Mhm.
the dreadlocks
Yeah.
in his hair spent a year
and
in
A
alternative
student.
school
Yeah.
because of the way he
That was crazy.
wearing his hair.
Yeah.
And then our enforcement agents, our superintendents, our board stood behind what
Isn't
the
that
concept
something?
of the law.
Isn't
So
that
now you
something?
can
Yeah.
put our
But-
children out of school
But
and
they
stand
stood,
behind the law.
but they stood behind the concept of the law. But and see, that's what, again, we
Common
talk
sense.
about this disconnect. No, wait a minute. We talk about the disconnect. No, seriously, we talk about the disconnect. You have students who are severely incorrigible.
Okay.
And there are
Yes.
schools and administrators who are saying, okay, teacher, our hands tied, you're gonna have to deal with it. Like you said, a lot of teachers don't know their rights.
Mhm.
But then there's a lot of school that this is why there's a teacher shortage in the state of Texas.
Okay.
And this is why the teacher shortage, and from what I read this morning, Texas has the high, one of the states that has the highest teacher shortage
Mhm.
in the nation.
Okay.
And this is the reason why, because you have kids across all of these, and behavioral is the number one issue why teachers say they walking out, because they're not being supported, one. And then you have this high population of kids that are coming in, they're undiagnosed special ed, they are undiagnosed this, they're undiagnosed that. You know, I even had kindergarten teachers say they have to change Pampers because the kids ain't even coming in potty trained.
I've heard that.
Yeah, so that's what
6 years old.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. That law was celebrated, going back to what I was saying, that law was celebrated because you have, you know, students that are not being supported. You have teachers that are not being supported. And so what do you do with that?
Crystal, and let me say, to you,
Rebecca.
Rebecca,
Mhm.
see, that was a time when they would study schools before integration. And
Right.
they would marvel over the discipline of the children.
Yes.
Marvel.
Yes. Yep. That's right.
Not admire,
Mhm.
marvel
That's right.
over what was taking place
In our
in
schools.
our schools.
Mhm.
We lost our footing in integration.
Yes. Yes.
Our children need something different than what the system is offering.
You're right
I'm
about
not saying
that.
right
That's
or
right.
wrong. I'm
That's
not
true.
saying-
Right.
No,
You're
you're
right.
right. You're
There's a
absolutely
difference.
right.
There is a
There's a
difference. There is a difference.
So what I'm saying to you is that the system is not designed to address some of the systemic needs of certain communities, because lacking the capacity to teach children about conflict resolution skills and things of that nature, it overflows now in how you handle situations. So you have a lot of fighting
Yeah.
on your campus. When you have to walk down a street and you can't wear a certain color in a community because
You
you
have
live
to
in
fight.
this
That's
housing
right.
project or you live in this housing
Yeah.
project, nobody's going to give you additional dollars,
Yeah.
but it's a reality where you live.
Right.
Right. And so that person learns to cope with that situation.
And that's a fact.
Right. So when I was at Jones, what area of Houston are the returnees from the penitentiary? Where are they housed? In 47 and 51.
Mhm.
And so when you place a number of people in one community that's coming from a prison mindset, then you start seeing a prison mindset by design,
And
not
30
by
and
accident,
33.
by design. So when you say, oh man, we're over here,
Yeah.
and these students are acting a certain way,
Yeah.
by
Design.
design.
I agree
Okay.
with that too.
Now, certainly, let's find this child that has some learning disability. Remember, that's one thing to have a learning disability.
Mhm.
It's also another to have an emotional
That's right.
disability.
That's right. It's
And
different.
we can actually, if we are professionals in what we need, deal with both.
We
Right.
can.
We can
That's
deal
right.
with both. But high stakes testing takes away the compassion to
That's
deal
right.
with certain things.
That's
Because I don't
absolutely
have
right.
what time to
That's
deal
right.
with this, right? I don't have time. I've got to move on. The pace and sequence of this class.
That's
I
right.
got 20 objectives I got to cover this week. I don't have time. We've lost the ability to work with children.
That's right.
And we treat children like they are robots or widgets on a board.
Yeah.
You pass through here. But if you go back to when you were growing up, you had some real life conversations with teachers along the way because they had
Lawrence. Now I told you how that time was gonna fly, didn't I?
Yeah.
It don't even seem like we've been in here an hour and 15
I
minutes.
think we're on the subject
I
one.
know. But let me ask you this, and
No,
I'm
but
gonna,
it's
and then
all
I'm gonna
tying
switch
in,
it.
though.
It's-
It is.
I'm
It's
gonna
all
switch
tying
that up
in.
because this kind of ties in with what you just talked about. People are concerned with safety in our communities, regardless of the demographic. Okay, we have now, and we have some constables out there that really, I take my hat off to law enforcement because they, for the most part, they short staffed too.
Okay.
Okay, and they have to be able to do what they can do, but so much of what you just talked about, as far as what happens in those schools, is spilling over into the street. It's coming out of the schools.
Yes.
Okay, and it ends up affecting all of us in our neighborhoods, in our homes, in our communities. What can we as communities do to help our law enforcement be able to better and effectively police our communities and have, safety is going to be something that affects all of us.
Okay.
And is that something that the legislators in tandem with the policing efforts can really effectively handle, or is that something that's starting in the home too? Basically, all of it is starting in the home.
Well, basically everything starts
Yeah.
at home in the sense of the word, learning how to walk out of your door and respect the family name that's on the door when you're walking out. But there's some systematic removal of programs.
Right.
When you were growing up, that was a DARE program. You
Yeah.
still had an opportunity to interact with law enforcement.
That's
in a different
right.
way.
That's right.
When Police Chief Lee Brown was in the city, he went to community policing.
Yes.
Where you had a lot of substations.
That's
in
right.
Communities.
That's
where
right.
there is
And that was
a-
so helpful.
It was.
Well, you said, but they're not there now.
They're not.
Okay, they're not there now.
You may have one
And
or
what I'm
two.
saying to you,
Yeah.
it's on purpose. It's on purpose.
Yeah,
Every one of those beds in a penitentiary, they want it filled up.
that's true.
Okay,
That's dollars.
or we losing money.
That's right.
So you
Didn't Texas spend like $36 billion building more prisons? What?
and privatizing. at the
That's
same
right.
time. So
That's
it's
right.
it's a
Somebody's making
hotel.
money.
It's not
That's
a
right.
prison. It's a hotel,
Mhm.
and we want every bed filled.
Right.
And I'm not trying to say that's negative. That's a business.
That's right.
that the
It
people
is.
are running.
It
So,
is.
and this is why I'm going to say this before we get out of here. And
Yeah.
Representative Ron Reynolds passed a bill last session that now allows those who are incarcerated to begin to get the kind of training that you need as you would matriculate back into
That's
society.
right. That's right.
And it starts the day you enter prison. Now you can now get training for what you'll need when you leave.
Right.
Prior to his bill, it only started 30 days before you.
That's
went to
right.
leave.
Because we know some
Right?
people. We worked with the returning citizens community, and you're absolutely right. And nothing can take hold in 30 days.
30 days. So what I'm saying to you is that yes, things can be done. Yes, things can be done intelligently.
Yeah.
But even in those situations in our prisons, they were stripped of the education program.
That's right. That's
They
right.
were stripped of
That's what
another
Quincy
thing, a
said.
number of
Yeah.
things that will give people the hope that when I come out, I can be successful.
That's right.
They were coming out at one point of the federal penitentiary with doctorate degrees.
They sure were.
right?
They sure were.
But no longer are they doing that. So what I'm saying to you, it's a willingness. It's a willingness. We say this at church all the time. I can do all things
Yes,
through
through
Christ who
That's right.
strengthens me. So I never give up on what we can do.
Right.
So, but I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. I'm
Right.
saying to people before we leave tonight, if you are even thinking about going into the education profession,
Yeah.
don't go in with rose-colored glasses thinking it's not difficult.
And I think that's Crystal and I talk about that all the time. I don't think principals are honest. I know I have a very strong perspective on principals. I do, but I don't think principals are being honest in interviews because I've had friends who told me, oh, but when I asked this in the interview, the principal told me that, oh, this is fine, and we do this, and then I get on the first day of school and I'm breaking up a fight on the first day of school. This is not what you told me in the interview when I accepted the job. And I know they're doing that because they have to get these classroom filled.
Yes.
So it's like I'm getting ready to tell you what I need to tell you because I need a body in this room.
Let me tell you, when I went to Jack Yates High School as assistant principal, I'd never seen a school with that kind of culture. All the supports a child could ever want or need.
Really? Wow.
all the supports a child could ever want or need.
I
You know,
experienced that
who,
too at
under
work.
which
then.
superintendent was this? Can you remember?
this was under Rod Page.
Okay.
Okay, but it wasn't that it was under Rod Page.
Mhm.
They had such a strong alumni association,
Yeah.
and they have a culture.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's had, but they had a culture then that I had never seen before.
Really?
Where if any child had a need, they would address it.
But you have principals like my principal, who I will forever love, Ronnie Evans.
Worthing High School. All
Yes.
right. At the poll, he came to vote.
Yeah, so you have principals like Ronnie Evans, Warner Irvin at Madison. You have principals like I can't think of the lady name who was at Sterling.
Daisy.
You
Daisy
had
Mara.
right. So you had these strong, and I can throw you into the mix.
Please put me in the room.
And you had
who were
these,
there for a
right, you
continuity.
had these
Yes.
strong principals
Who stayed?
who stayed, didn't take no SHIT. But who stayed, but also but who
No, 'cause
also loved what they
The
did.
kids. They did.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember many a day at debate practice, coming, getting ready for debate tournaments at TSU because I was captain of the debate team. Mr. Evans would still be on campus at 9:00.
Yes.
And you know, he was like, I got to make sure every last one of y'all get home. So
Yeah.
it was,
7 days a week.
It was
Not
perfect.
5.
It was personal.
right.
Yeah.
9:00. I can't even think of a principal that would stay till 9:00.
That's common.
Yeah.
That's common. 12 o'clock. On a Friday, you would get to school at 6 o'clock in the morning. You'd go and have a game. That afternoon at 7, you go to the game. And guess what? They want to have a dance after the game. And you're still there. And
But
you-
we were just debate practice on a Wednesday, and he was there at 9:00.
But you know what? I bet you he was also the type of principal that maybe people, the older brothers had, and then the whole family had.
well, all
coming
his
through
children went to
yeah,
him.
and he was a Worthing alum as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was special. And it's
That's great.
And Larry Alexander. I don't know if
Right.
you knew Mr.
No,
Alexander,
I was
who was there
little. I
before he
young.
was. They were Worthing graduates along
Yeah.
with Rodney Ellis
Right.
during the time. So when I was at Jones, we had 20 people on staff that graduated from Jones.
Wow.
It was something I was trying
Yes,
to do
yes.
because it became a mission.
That's right.
Right.
To
That's
see our
right.
school in the best
It was
light.
the point of pride.
It was a mission.
Mhm.
Then we started building the alumni association around the children. We started bringing in the fraternities and sororities and the
Yes.
tutors
Yeah.
around it. Leadership matters. The person in that main office matters. One of the things I'm very prideful and proud of
Mhm.
is that we set a culture of everybody has to have a circle of children around them.
Right.
What club do you have? What are you going to do? Some of them had Christ on campus. Some of them we started the booster.
Yeah.
church. But every person, not teacher, every person had to have a circle of children around them.
It was
Okay.
personal.
Personal. And so when those children were in those various circles, they found a home.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now I'm gonna tell you this, and you might not believe it. Might not believe it. My best weapon when we had a great basketball team
Mhm.
was telling children, "You cut up, you won't be able to go to the game today.
That's right.
We're not going to let you in the game
Yeah.
tonight. Don't even
That was weight.
approach
That
the
was weight.
stadium. You
Mhm.
won't be coming because I want to be here. I'm a Jones Falcon.
That's
We're
right.
winning. We're going to state. I tell my wife all the time when we were in Austin for the state championship. I
Mhm.
knew the Jones family was there because I could hear trunks. They were following the bus all the way.
That is too funny. That's funny. But let me say this, and I told you guys. Now you see, it doesn't even seem like we have been talking for almost an hour and a half, but that's okay.
We have.
I told you. I told you. But that's why I like to bring people in, because people need to see another side. They need to see the person. They need to see the person and because I'm gonna be honest with you. When I go to the polls, I want to see. Do you remember when Carolyn Evans came in? Dr. Shabazz came in, and we knew everything about her when she was growing up. When she was a little girl, we knew about
Cheerleader, yeah.
And I didn't even
All
know that
all
her
of that.
that Evans Hall was named
And
after
her-
her. Yeah,
grandma.
I
My
didn't know.
grandfather.
Mhm.
I didn't know that.
But
I
you
mean,
know,
Evans
people
Hall
wanna-
was kind of abandoned when I came up.
Okay.
it's a connection. People
Yeah.
want to make I want to make a connection with who I am, who's representing me. I want to feel that connection, and that's important.
Well, Krista, you might want to have a connection, but you better do it just like a person that hires somebody. You better
Absolutely.
make sure they have the capacity and the skill
Absolutely,
set to get it done.
but they can see with their own eyes and hear with their own ears if they feel that person.
But that's what I think
Is
we're missing
qualified.
today. Because in order to be effective,
Mhm. Right.
you have to have a person that knows how to turn the water off as a plumber. When the water is running, you need a plumber. I might be the best electrician you've ever met.
Right.
But I'm not gonna ask you to
But
work
you
with my
need
things.
Right.
So when you are looking at a person that is going to represent you, you got to look at the skill set.
Right.
And one of the things people like to use today, I'm going to fight for you. They're going to say, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight.
And what does
Well,
that
you
mean?
can fight all
Mhm.
day long, and the next time we look at your record, you're 0-65.
Mhm.
You know, you lost
Mhm.
65 fights.
But you was fighting.
We appreciate
But
you
was
fighting, but we
Yeah.
didn't get anything from those fights.
Right.
Right? So you got to say, who can win these battles
Right.
for us? These are battles.
Right.
So you're looking for a champion in the space.
Right.
Where's your credentials that say you know how to operate in these tough spaces?
Right.
What? Now I haven't had a chance. Well, I'm in that classroom. Person,
Right.
you say I'm in that
Yeah.
classroom every day. I'm winning that battle every day. I'm showing you how to manage. I meet
Right.
with parents. I know how to do certain things. I know how to assess. I know how to evaluate. I know how to identify. I
Right.
got the education. So the acronym of who you are, the steps you walk long before you walk in the door.
Right.
And you all know this as classroom teachers. You can look at that sixth grader and seventh grader, you can almost project where they're going to be.
Isn't that
20 years from
something?
now.
Isn't that
Every
something?
single
Isn't that
time.
something?
Every-
Yeah.
But you got
Yeah.
a couple that throw you for a loop.
One or two.
Yeah.
You
Only
ain't
one or two.
Wait a minute.
Only one or two. Only one or two.
On one or two, but for the most part, you see the one that you're going to be successful. You're going to have some issues if you don't change that bad behavior, right? And so things occur in life. But what I'm
Right.
simply saying to you is that we all have a resume of life.
Right.
We have a resume of life. And if you have a resume of life, then I can say to you, Crystal, I don't mind you representing me
Right.
because you've been tested, tried, and
Right.
true.
Right.
But where do you get your test from? God tests you.
Right.
life.
Oh yeah.
Right? So I
Oh,
tell
yeah.
people all the time, I'm a grandfather. They might say, well, you're Lawrence, you're Alma's son, but I'm also a grandfather. You know?
Right.
So what does that count for? That's a level of
That's right.
experience you don't know anything
That's
about
right.
unless you're there.
Right.
I'm a father of 5
Yes.
adults now.
Yeah.
Over time.
Yeah.
And so that's another school that you have to learn. I've
Right.
been married twice.
Right.
That's a school you have to learn.
Right.
So I've been through the school I call a
Hard knock. Yeah.
and I've gone
Yeah.
to the university and have graduated 3 times and 60 hours on my PhD.
Yeah.
So I've done that whole thing that to put myself in front of you to say, I have walked that walk that
Mhm.
says, when I go somewhere, I won't forget why I'm here.
Right.
And I have evidence to say, I have the scars to say I stand on what I believe, right?
I hear
I
you.
stand on what I say,
Yeah.
even if I lose my position, even if I lose my job,
Right.
I'm gonna stand on principle.
That's right.
All right?
that's right.
I'm gonna stand on principle. And I
Yeah.
have the evidence to show.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
what the worst thing we can do to our community is to leave them and change who we said we were
That's right.
for some advancement, $1 or a special seat somewhere
Yeah.
or some favor. We don't
Yeah.
need that.
Right.
We don't need that. Even if you talk about the
That's
election,
right. That's right.
even if they say this was the turnout of the century, it was still less than 15% of the voters.
I know.
Right?
We got work to do.
So
We still
if
got work to
people
do,
don't, if
yeah.
people have already disenfranchised with that
Yeah.
system,
Yeah.
you cannot put people there that disappoint them with their behaviors or their choices.
Right.
Right? If you get disappointed, just say we were not able to move our agenda forward. We just don't have enough votes for this.
Right.
That's one thing. That's like
Be-
you can
be
still say, you can
transparent.
still celebrate the
That's right.
effort.
Yeah.
Right? When your child goes to play their game
Yeah.
and you say, well, you all lost tonight, be good sportsman, but you played what? Well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's a totally different feeling.
Yeah.
Man, Miss Allen, you did well.
Yeah.
We just didn't get it what? This time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Lawrence, listen, I want to thank you so much for coming on because I wanted people to hear from your mouth exactly who you are.
Mhm.
Not listen to what they've heard out in it, because like I said, when we first started, what you hear is one thing, but you got a chance to explain. People know who you are
Yes, ma'am.
now. And if people want to reach out to you, if they would like to volunteer for your campaign, if they would like to be at the polls or some other things, how would they get in contact with you? Do you have social media, or what would they need to do to reach out
It's
to
really
you?
always best to go to my website or send me
Okay.
an email.
Okay.
And as well as I should know it, I'll forget it every time. But if you go to Lawrence A. Allen Jr., which is Lawrence Allen Jr. 4131 at gmail.com, then you will be able to leave me a email. If
Okay,
you look up,
let me have one because I'll put this in the comment
all
section.
right, then
Yeah.
if you also look up Lawrence Allen's campaign, it'll go to my website.
Okay.
And you can leave me a message there.
Okay.
And let me say this real good. I'm gonna say this. You can also dial 713-203-1355, and you can call me, whoever's watching this.
Okay.
Wait. You do have
That-
somebody answering your
No,
phone.
ma'am, that's right here. Let me tell you what my mother taught me
Oh,
since we
God.
talking about my mother. 713-203-1355.
Leave there, Lawrence.
My mother told me when I was a young man, she said, never change your phone number.
I
If
know.
you feel
Yeah.
like you need to change your phone number, change your life.
That's right.
No,
That's
I
true.
don't want
That's
you to
true.
get harassed.
713-203-1355. I mean,
Right.
what I'm saying to you, call me, let's talk, whatever it is. I don't care how many calls it is, because people need to understand. I'm asking you to vote for me. And
Yeah.
you think you can't have my phone number?
No, I'm just saying you don't have somebody answering.
No, it's gonna ring this on this phone right here. And then this is my office phone right here. And so all I'm saying to you, that it's critical to say, hey, if you really, because look at the question. If you want to be a part of his success, then you need to be able to get to him.
Right.
Now, the question didn't say if you want to harass him, if you want to be foolish,
I just,
right?
you know,
Right.
So I'm gonna
I
go
don't,
right
I don't
along
want
with the question.
I don't want the wrong people getting.
All right, wrong. That's all good. God sent him.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, you now know. I told you that you were gonna get it from his mouth, his words. You know, do you feel like you know this gentleman more than you knew him before? Of course, I know him more than I knew him before. Okay,
So it's all right.
because let's be clear, Lawrence has a poker face. He looks like if you roll the window down, he might say, "Can I see your license and registration?" Okay. He doesn't crack a smile, but once you peel back the layers,
He is so
a very, very personable gentleman. But Lawrence Allen,
Yes, ma'am.
Rebecca Williams, Mrs. Allen, she's over there in the corner. Y'all haven't seen her, but I want to thank you so much for coming in
Yes, ma'am.
and agreeing to sit down and open up and share with our audience why you feel that this is the right space and the right place and the right time for you right
Thank
now.
you so much. But let me say this, and I want to, because we started out tonight talking about Mr. Allen. It was the best dressed in high school, best dressed in college, best dressed after that. I want to.
You know, he had to toot his own horn.
No, that wasn't it. I really want to leave you on this. And why? I want to tell you why, and it might surprise you.
Mhm,
And this is for every young man out there that's growing up.
mhm.
I did not see myself as handsome. Didn't have the fro. Didn't have any of those things that most people would have said that made you handsome.
Yes.
So I would say I was operating out of low self-esteem.
Okay.
And so in order to
You're chocolate. I don't understand why.
oh, because that was not the favorite color.
Back in the day,
All
back in
right,
the
and
day,
so
light skin with a big afro.
my
That was-
compliment from a young lady came from the way I dressed.
Mhm.
Okay. And so my dress covered my insecurities. Okay. And so I enjoyed dressing because I got a compliment. I felt comfortable there and I felt accepted in that space. I was a winner in that
Right.
space
Right.
where I probably was not the brightest in the classroom. So I wasn't getting my accolades there. I was a good athlete,
Mhm.
but not the best athlete
Right.
in there, but I was the best dressed. And because of that, I continue to try to keep that. I don't necessarily have the low self-esteem issue anymore.
Right.
My dress now is out of a level of respect.
Right.
I dress the way I do because I want to present myself to people in the best light. So
Exactly.
that I dress to say to you, I respect you, I appreciate you, and I would present myself to you in the best manner that I can.
I hope there's some parents listening to some school children's parents because that's not necessarily the case with everyone. I'm gonna let you look at a couple of those comments. If there's any of them, thank you for commenting, Larry. Thank you for commenting,
Thank you.
Paulette. But I'm not, thank you guys for watching. But what we're getting ready to do is go ahead and sign off because we are 2 minutes over. No, we're 32 minutes over, aren't we?
Wait,
Okay.
just really, really quickly. I want to send a
She
big
does this every
I
week.
know, I know.
We have to do a part two.
Yeah.
I know. I have to do this. I want to send a big shout out to Prairie View A&M University, the home where champions are built, 2 championships in a season cycle.
These are Prairie Fairview alum.
Atlanta. So we go back to Atlanta to finish out our title championship. Big shout out to the basketball team. Y'all did y'all thing against Alabama A&M. I was surprised I had a voice today because I was screaming at the TV. But yay, PV.
Lawrence Allen, Rebecca Williams, Miss Allen. Like we say every week, we can do it.
We can do it.
We'll see.